Hey everybody, and welcome to Take Heart today. For the next few Take Hearts, I want to talk about finding a secure identity. I don't know if you've ever described someone as that person's really insecure, or the positive, that person really knows who they are. I think all of us are at times pretty insecure, and I know during lockdown and all the challenges we've had over the last few months, lots of us have felt more insecure than ever. So I want to ask that question of how do we become a person who is secure in their identity, their sense of self and their sense of worth? What our culture does is it gives us a way of going about that. The modern 21st century West says the way that you find secure identity, the way that you find your sense of self, is you look inside yourself. Look at your deepest desires, look at your emotions and your feelings, and then express them. Live that out, and that's how you find self-worth and self-identity. You are whoever you say you are, whoever you want to be. That sounds really nice, but what I found through experience is that it often doesn't actually lead to a place of genuine security, and that's for any number of reasons. One is that our deepest feelings and desires actually change quite a bit. What I desired when I was 13 was very different from what I desired when I was 23, and now I'm 30 odd. It's changed again. Our feelings and our emotions also tend to be conflicting a lot of the time. So I desire to be very healthy, but I also desire to eat a boatload of cake. Which of those desires is the real me? I might desire to serve the poor and do good things for people, but I also desire, there's a part of me that desires to be rich and just to have good things for myself. Which of those is the real Andy? I think part of the reason why we're saying let's look inside of ourselves is as an understandable reaction to how identity used to be found in our culture, which is you have to meet the expectations of those around you. And if you live up to the community's expectations, society's expectations, then they'll give you affirmation and self-worth, and that seems so oppressive to us, so we've reacted against it. No, I'll be whoever I want to be. But the problem with that is all we've really done is swapped everybody else's expectations for our own expectations. And now we have to live up to those, and that can be as crushing, if not more crushing. I don't know about you, but I don't get to the end of the day very often and feel like I've met my own expectations of myself. So it comes across as a really freeing way to live. Be whoever you want to be, but it usually doesn't lead people to being secure. What does the Bible say about this question of how we discover self-identity, sense of self and a sense of worth? It takes a really different approach, and it tells us that we discover who we are when we find out who we belong to. Put another way, we find out who we are when we discover whose we are. And I know that sounds cliched, or it could. You know, that could be something we could tweet and someone likes it and we don't give a second thought to it. But there's real, I think, just incredible, profound truth in realizing this is what the Bible presents to us as a way of finding security. We discover who we are in relationship with God, not in splendid isolation and by looking inwards, but by looking upwards and being in intimacy with Him. And there's a story in Mark chapter 1 that I'm going to read to you and we're going to look at for the next few Take Hearts. And it's of Jesus' baptism. It says this, Mark chapter 1 verse 9. At that time Jesus came from Nazareth in Galilee and was baptized by John in the Jordan. Just as Jesus was coming up out of the water, he saw heaven being torn open and the Spirit descending on him like a dove. And a voice came from heaven, "You are my Son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased." There's lots in there, but today I want to focus on the Father speaking. And we find our sense of self not by looking in, as I've said, but by looking up and hearing the voice of the Father. So we discover who we are when we realize that the Father names us. I know in this story he's naming his only begotten son Jesus, but we are his adopted daughters and his adopted sons, and he speaks these words over us as well. You are my son. Part of understanding this is recognizing that we need to be given our identity from outside of ourselves. Again, that sounds a little oppressive in our culture, but probably when we think about it, we'll recognize that there's some truth in that. So you can't just give yourself a sense of worth, however much we try. I have tried this many times. I have woken up in the morning, looked in the mirror and said, Andy, you are incredible. Wow, you're amazing. Oh my word, everyone who knows you is so lucky to have you in their life. Do you know, no matter how positively I say it, I don't really believe it because I get to live with me. And no matter how much we kind of speak positively about ourselves, and it's better to speak positively than negatively, we still need someone outside of us to speak over us. And when someone outside of yourself, like someone external, speaks over you, it can give you real value, but it matters who that person is, particularly if we're looking for ultimate security. If we're looking for ultimate security, this person who speaks over us should not be someone who can ever let us down or disappoint us. They should not be someone whose opinion of us goes up and down depending on our successes and our failures. They should not be someone who could ever leave us, because if they leave us, then we'll lose our sense of self. And on top of that, they should be someone who we love and who we esteem and who we admire greatly. Tim Keller talks about this, and he says that the praise of the praiseworthy is beyond all rewards. And what he's getting at there is when someone you really love and respect says something nice about you, it gives us a sense of worth and a sense of self, doesn't it? So, you know what, if you're a parent and your teenagers don't talk much and you say, how you doing? And they just go, what you been up to today? But then, like, there's this moment where suddenly they just look at you and they just say, hey, mum, hey, dad, I really love you. You are an incredible parent. Thanks for all that you do for me. And then they go back to grunting. But if you are that parent, you hear that from your teenager, suddenly, doesn't it just, whoa, like something comes into us and it's like, yes, that feeds me in a really good way. Maybe you're a teacher who's been slogging your guts out at school for the last however many months, trying to do it in a socially distanced way, and you are knackered. And then there's a veteran teacher takes you aside, someone you really respect, someone who you've seen turn kids' lives around, and they just take you one side and they just say, hey, you need to know that whatever it is that makes a great teacher, you've got it. I see it in you. You've got it. Doesn't that make a difference? We need someone to speak over us, but it matters who that person is. And if when another human being that we look up to says that kind of stuff over us, you know, what a difference it would make to us when we come to understand this is what the Father of heaven and earth says over us. You are my child, whom I love. With you I am well pleased. That is what the Father says over us. Listen to this. John chapter 1 verse 12. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, children born not of natural descent or of human decision or a husband's will, but born of God. Questions to finish. What if I really believed the Father loved me? What if I really believed that the Father of heaven and earth spoke over me and knew my name? What if I really believed that his words to me were, you are my child? How would that change me? Here's the thought for the day. He has, and he does speak that over us. Believing and trusting in this is the beginning of real security.